Why'd you do a double clap? Right, welcome to our first podcast at BTC. You can laugh all you want. So for the perspective of our viewers, this is Leanne, better known as CurlyCast on Instagram. She's got at least 10 followers, I'm sure. What's the actual number?
34,000 something.
And I guess the secret is that we have been together for, 24 years? Married for 17-ish?
16.
16, I was close. I mean, who's counting, right?
Oh, no, it is 17.
Yes,
17,
I'm right. Yeah, 17 years. So you're technically a social media influencer, and I know you hate that title, but we'll delve into that in a minute. And just tell me how long you've been doing it.
Since 2018.
And how did it get started?
So it was Emily. She used to come to me and tell me that she really wanted curly hair. And I used to say to her, you have to embrace what God gave you. Your hair is beautiful. And then I realised that I was straightening my curly hair and not living up to what I was telling her. So I decided to Google how to get your curls back. And I fell down the Instagram rabbit hole of curly hair influencers.
Oh, nice, nice. I obviously I've got the inside track, and it's for the benefit of the viewers. But do you want to elaborate on that first introduction to Instagram? What was it that drew you specifically to that platform and made you sort of go down that rabbit hole?
Because I'm too old for TikTok.
You're too old. Was it TikTok even a thing? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know how old
sure.
TikTok is.
I don't know what.
TikTok's for the young people. I hate TikTok.
Right.
It's for the young people. And Instagram had a bigger curly hair community.
So it was the community more than anything that brought you onto that.
Yeah, because I learnt from those people. Because I didn't obviously start influencing. I started learning how to look after curly hair and sharing my own journey. And then it morphed into influencing and educating people. And it was a slow progression.
Right. So I know that you're quite a sensitive soul, but for the benefit of the viewers, what's the most horrendous comment you've, like the comment that you struggled with the most, negative comment, and then sort of conversely to that, what was the most uplifting comment? And obviously I don't expect you to remember them verbatim, but if you could sort of pinpoint generally what they were.
I don't know, because I'm very lucky in that I don't get very many negative comments.
Yeah.
And when they are negative, they're not horrendous. The worst one was probably the first one that I got, because it was my first negative one.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember what it said. I haven't got a clue, but I remember that I nearly cried.
Right. Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing, because obviously we grew up in a world before the internet, so envisaging a job that would have never existed, like when our parents were our age in 2018, nobody would have ever thought that a sort of quote unquote influencer would have existed. It's really interesting for me, to sort of consider how we view these things as jobs, and actually how much impact it has on the family life. So from your perspective as a job, I guess what I'd say is, what's your biggest frustration, but equally what's the most enjoyable part of it?
So the biggest frustration is probably the time aspect, because when I'm doing Instagram work, I feel like I'm taken away from the kids, and when I'm with the kids, I'm like, oh, I should be washing my hair, I should be filming this. Or if I have a wash day where I can't film it because I'm too busy, I'm like, oh, that's, you only have so many wash days in a week.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm letting Instagram down, but then when I'm doing Instagram, I feel like I'm letting the kids down. That's the biggest frustration. And the best thing is that I can work it around the kids. And as I keep telling the kids, you can make a business out of anything. I've proven that. I've made a business out of curly hair.
It's an interesting one. I guess if you're keen enough, And for the benefit of anyone who's watching this, the children are actually in the room. So we've got all 4 children in here. So there you go. All right, on cue. Why not? The youngest is going to start making noises. So maybe there's some time with mum just to help him, settle down. But hopefully he's not too difficult. So what would you say from other, other influencers or other people that you found on Instagram? Because you touched on that you learnt from, you were on a learning journey yourself, and then it sort of morphed into this bigger thing. Is there anyone that you would say like to shout out or mention that they've helped you, whether it's with, styles or
It's weird because when I first started, people were very guarded. They were very like, you kind of got to figure this out yourself. I'll tell you a shampoo to use, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Whereas that's where I've been different. People message me and I give them everything. I tell them how to do it, when to do it, what to use, techniques, because I'm like, it's not some like guarded secret. I want you to have nice hair.
Yeah.
So when I started, it was very, I'll help you a little bit, but I'm not going to help you loads. But I can remember like the first person I ever followed was Curly Fit Mum, and I still follow her to this day.
Okay.
But I never asked her for help because she's got completely different hair to me. So her tips wouldn't help me anyway. But I followed her because she has beautiful hair.
So would you say it's fair that the sort of mission statement, if you will, of CurlyCast is to provide people with as much information about their hair, so they can go out there and almost go on that same learning journey that you were on?
Yes, because to me, it's not about making money or getting brand deals or the most amount of products and getting gifted loads of stuff. It's helping people. Because I know how much people hate their hair. I hated mine. And when you don't like something about yourself, that's horrible. And when I watch people fall in love with their hair, that's why I do it.
That's nice. That's quite a good consideration, I suppose. I mean, as you well know, my knowledge about curly hair is limited. I've got next to no real hair left of my own. So, what I have got is a wispy mess. So, it's never a journey I'm going to go on, but I do know that you've made some great friendships. So we sort of touched on, influencers who've helped you the most on your learning journey. What about products and manufacturers? I mean, you don't have to give brands, but by all means you can if you want. Any friendships come out of that, or,
You already know who I'm going to say. Katie.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Katie from JSL. She's become my bestest friend in the whole wide world.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
And we've only met in person once.
The power of the internet, eh?
No, but I know that if I rang her up in the middle of the night and was like, Katie, I need you, she'd be in the car and she'd come.
What does that relationship look like? How did you start? How did you meet? What were the discussions? And how did you build that relationship,
So it started with, I ordered 2 products from her because Victoria had said, I got gifted these products, they're amazing. And I was like, I want to try them. So I bought 2 products. Katie then messaged me on Instagram. I was like, thank you for your order. I'm going to send you some extra stuff. I'd love for you to try it. And I was like, yeah, that's great. Tried them all, fell in love with them, messaged her and was like, I love your products. And it started as like a business transaction. She was like, I'll give you a discount code. You'll earn money from the code. And then we exchanged phone numbers. And now we voice note about 500 times a day. And obviously I started working for her as well.
Oh, it seems you've mentioned it. Do you want to talk a little bit about that work and what it is?
Basically, I work with the stockists and the current stockists that she has, but also trying to bring new stockists on board and get into different shops and hairdressers and things like that. I basically deal with the stockist side of things.
Nice.
And I write the newsletter.
So if you were to tell our viewers, if there's people watching this and they were looking to get started, because it is quite a common trend that I've noticed. People who've got straight hair turn around and say, well, I'm naturally curly and I've always just straightened it. What would you say to those people, now on this podcast, how to get started? What do I do? Where do I go? Who would you recommend? Those things.
I would say starting with embracing your hair is just about hide the hair straighteners. Put them away. Give them to your husband, do whoever, and hide them. Because that is the one, you'll have a bad day and you will pull the hair straighteners out and it'll all be over. And people think, I'm just not going to straighten my hair for a week and my curls will bounce right back. You need to go into it knowing it is going to take you 18 months to get your curls back. It's patience, time. Follow people on Instagram, ask questions, message them. Most people now are helpful. Most people. And then just learn, watch videos, ask questions.
What I really want to do is move on to the memorable moment. So we're going to do that now, right? So memorable moments from being an influencer on Instagram.
I don't know. When I started working with Trey Lux, that was a big one. Because that was the first brand that I found that really worked on my hair. And then when I started working with them, it was like this big, like a full circle moment.
Right.
When I got sent like 5 hairdryers by one brand, that was a funny moment, I guess.
That was not funny. That was not funny at all. There was nothing funny about that in the house.
They were good hairdryers.
Irrespective, that is unbelievably all right, it's a memorable moment, I'll give you that. But perception from my point of view is that it was a nightmare because So a bit for the viewers, I bought a Dyson hairdryer as a present for Leanne. It was an expensive Dyson hairdryer. Apparently it was the greatest thing in the world.
I still love that hairdryer.
And... It was the greatest hairdryer in the world. It was going to be a game changer. Was it a birthday present? Or...
No, it was for Christmas.
It was for Christmas, yeah. So a very, very expensive hairdryer. And I'm sure the blokes, if any that are watching this will appreciate overtime effort. It was like, excessive overtime to get the money together to get that done. And you used it for
I used it was 2 years before I got the other one.
Right, used it for a bit, and then out the blue, this brand approached you, which is nice, right? I'm not knocking it, and you get this free hairdryer. I don't know anything about hairdryers, don't particularly care. Like I've mentioned, there's not much point in me having a hairdryer. And they sent you one, didn't they? Is it like a...
They sent me one, and then the video took off really well, so they sent me another one, and then they released another colour, and then they released another model, and then they released another colour, and I ended up with 5.
But they sent all the attachments as well, so we ended up with all these attachments and weird hairdryer things, but they were all the same model, but just different colours and new attachments and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's probably a good shout out here. If you're a brand and you watch a person who has a hairdryer, just do the husband a solid, right? Just send one. One's okay. 5, it's not okay. It's not okay. Our bedroom looks like a wizard's potion room with all of the bottles of random stuff, and I don't even know. I could be sleeping in a room with toxic waste for all that. I'm not saying it is, but I could be. I don't know. We can mutate and grow a second head or something. There's so many bottles in there. But yeah, I think that's a fair, memorable moment, but from a different perspective. So what else? Because I know
we've got the first Instagram live that I did.
Yeah.
Where you didn't realise I was on a live and had just gotten out the shower and walked into the bedroom.
Yeah, and I was in the bath, wasn't I? Yeah, got out of the bath and come in. So again, if you're someone who's on social media, do your husband a solid, right? Let him know you're going to start filming and it's going to be live across the internet before you actually do it. You know, I've got out the bath, you know, and like every bloke, I'm doing the old towel rub as I'm walking in the room. I've stepped up onto our bed because there's this whole camera setup going on and walked straight across shop, you know.
I believe someone did comment and say, "Ooh, Mr. CurlyCast."
Yeah. So flashing the internet unintentionally.
That's the most memorable moment, hands down. That's the most memorable moment.
I think for me, the most memorable moment was when you sprung that video on me about answering the questions.
Oh yeah,
That
the curly
was,
terms. Yeah.
You know,
Do you know the curly terms?
It was fun, but you sort of had me at a significant disadvantage there.
It'd be like if you said to me, name these engineering terms.
Oh, don't you worry, we're coming on to that. That is a thing.
Oh, okay.
You're in my world now. Welcome to the workshop.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, so, I mean, do you want to talk about that? Because it was quite a successful video. So, you know, what was the...
The actual more successful video was the one you did recently about where you voiced over my thing. That one went down a treat.
I just get dragged into these things. I'm like, I don't know, a lamb to the slaughter. I just get pulled in. You've got a little bit of time. You know, I mean, how much is like, I don't know, you filmed the video and then gave me like 30 minutes or an hour or I don't even know, it wasn't much time. You're like, right, voice this over, you know, and it's quite a surreal experience living with someone who posts regularly on the internet, short clips. It's got to be, you know, you hear these terms. It's got to be snappy. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. You know, it's worlds away from what I'm used to. So obviously, my job is data driven, and it has to be methodical and planned, and you know things have to be right because there are serious implications with it. Where you can walk in from work and it's like, Shazam! Just right, say something over the top of this. You know, so just have you got a theme? No, just say something.
Yeah,
so,
my work is creative, whereas yours is anything but creative.
It's slightly painful for me, your work, but it's okay. I love that you do it, and it's for you. So, yeah, it's all good. What are the misconceptions about being an influencer and, you know, dealing with...
That we all lie for money. The amount of times somebody has messaged me and said, do you actually really like this product? Like, I'll put a post up and it will be a sponsored post. And so obviously I've been paid for this post. But I don't get told what to say. So all thoughts are my own. But I will then get hundreds of messages. Do you actually like this product? Are you just saying it because you're being paid? And I'm like, I genuinely will only post. If I don't like a product, I won't post about it. I've had brands send me products before and offer to pay me for posts, and I've not liked the product, and I've gone back to them and said, sorry, I don't like your product. You know, this is great about it, but this didn't work for me. And I've turned down thousands of pounds because I'm not going to lie. Because if I lie, someone's then going to buy that product and they're going to know that I'm chatting shit. Because they're going to be like,
Did you just swear on my podcast?
I did. But let's be honest, you have the mouth of a sailor. And where did I learn to swear, Anthony?
I don't know. I can't remember. Nothing to do with me.
No, not at all. So there's no point in me lying. But that's the biggest misconception. I went on Reddit a couple of months ago and I happened to find a thread. People were talking about specifically curly hair influencers, and the amount of people that were like, yeah, they're just in it for the money, you can't believe anything they say, they're all, and I was like, is this genuinely what people think to influencers?
Well, I think there's 2 points to that. The first one, what's a Reddit, is the first point I'd say. Right, that's the first thing. So for the benefit of the audience, there's a little bit of an age gap between me and Leanne.
There's 3 years.
It's closer to 4.
But still.
It's closer to 4.
All right, Grandpa.
Yeah, but the point is, so I'm Gen X and you're a millennial, aren't you? So
no, we're both millennials.
No. I am on the right side of the fence. I'm in the last year, so it counts. But nevertheless, very, very different upbringings. So I routinely don't understand some of the terms that we do, and also I'm more private than you, and this is, like this podcast is killing me
Oh,
inside.
yeah.
You know.
You don't have social media. You don't. You are an Enneagram 5.
You might have to explain that because no one's going to get that. Well, some people might. I don't.
It's
know.
personality traits, isn't it? It goes like 1 to 9, I think. And you're a number 1, you're a number 2, you're a number 3, but it's all you like your personality traits. And you are a number 5. You are very private. Very.
You want to talk about that for a minute?
What? How private you are?
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Come on, get it out.
No, it's annoying because there's some things you don't even tell me, and I'm your wife.
For example.
I need to think of something off the top of my head now, don't I? I don't, because obviously you're private about medical stuff, but obviously that's medical stuff. So you're allowed to be private about that. But there's been things, but I can't think of something off the top of my head. But you are private about everything. And you don't have social media, which is weird. Who doesn't have a Facebook?
Me. I suppose technically through the business we have all of that, but that's managed by a third party, much like this podcast. This isn't my brainchild and all the rest of it. And like I say, a little piece of me died inside, but for doing this. But I can also see the fun side of it. That's whereas you're the opposite, aren't you? You're very. What's interesting is in our personal life, you're an introvert, but on the internet, you're an extrovert almost. You present.
Yeah, in
well.
real life, I don't like people.
I heard it said once, and I don't know how true it is, but and I don't know if James can get hold of Hulk Hogan to confirm this, right? But Hulk Hogan, lol, getting hold of Hulk Hogan, that's never happening. I read years ago that Hulk Hogan on camera, when he's Hulk Hogan the wrestler, he's flamboyant. He's running in, he's doing your favourite hand gesture, right? But apparently in real life he's very private and he's a very quiet man. But I don't know how true that is. And
I loved lockdown. I wish for another lockdown.
We're going down the toilet roll and pasta route here.
Do you know what? I didn't have to.
Don't say
I
the
didn't have
words.
to go
Don't
out.
say what it was about, right?
No.
Because
I didn't have to go out.
Yeah.
I didn't have to see anybody. Nobody could come into the house. I could just stay at home with my chickens, and I was happy. I pray for another lockdown.
Wow.
Because I don't, in real life, I don't like seeing people. But on the internet, I'm very outgoing because it's my social life, because I don't have a social life in real life.
You could do, but you just don't like
Yeah,
talking
but I don't
to
want
people.
to. I don't want to.
That's fair enough. I guess that's quite a good insight into the sort of mindset of CurlyCast. It's like, I guess, would you say it's fair that it's a projection of the person you'd like to be then on the internet? Do you think?
It's like my alter ego.
Yeah.
CurlyCast is my alter ego.
So why do you call it CurlyCast? Is that like your superhero name? Or would you be a villain?
No,
super
because
villain?
so when you put gel on your hair and your hair dries, your hair goes crunchy and it's called a cast. Well, some people really struggle to get a cast. You aim to get a cast because then as your hair dries, it's protected, and once your hair's fully dry, you scrunch it out, that cast is gone. But everybody wants to get a cast, but some people struggle with it.
That was the pooping thing, wasn't it?
No. But I've never struggled to get a cast. I always joke that I only have to look at a hair product and a cast starts forming on my hair. So when I was trying to come up with a name, CurlyCast, because I don't struggle to get a cast.
Nice.
There you go, see. Words on my fang.
You probably did tell me that at some point. But
Yeah, no, I
I've
did.
forgotten.
I tell you a lot of things, but you forget.
Well, that's the beauty of being married. It's kind of like a bit of a filter going on. Like I said to you before, there are complaints and there are problems. Problems have to be resolved. Complaints can be moved into the problems box, but it's all right. But what I haven't forgotten is, of course, the infamous video of you sitting me down on that stool in the living room.
The curly terms.
Asking me a whole bunch of questions. So it feels only right and fair that I return this opportunity now that we're in. This is my house, right? Welcome to
We're
the
in
workshop.
your castle.
That's
in your
right.
castle.
So we're going to
okay.
see how you're going to get on with this. So,
Okay.
What's a photocell?
something to do with photosynthesis.
Okay. What do you think it does?
A photocell?
Yeah, what do you think it does? It's an it. What do you think it does?
Is it to do something electronic?
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Is it a component?
It would be.
I do really well at this.
Yeah, okay.
It's a component that goes inside of a motherboard.
No.
I'm just throwing words out now.
Okay, so we'll call that a big fat Freddy fail. So, NPN or PNP?
What?
NPN or PNP with your photocell?
PNP.
No.
Oh, okay. NPN.
No. It depends on what it needs when you're setting it up.
Yeah, totally, of course.
Oh, this is so much fun when it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is actually quite hard. I didn't realise how hard this would be.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll leave the sensors thing now because the photocell is a sensor. It falls in that, of course it is.
Of course.
Of course it is. You've got proximity sensors and level sensors and all the rest of it. So we'll leave that. So what about welding?
Oh, I know about this. There's different types of welding.
Yeah. Okay. Can you name them?
TIG, MIG,
Yeah, okay. What does TIG stand for?
tungsten.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Tungsten in grooves.
Tungsten in grooves.
Was it right with tungsten?
Tungsten was right, yeah, absolutely.
Tungsten
Inert.
Tungsten inert. What's the G?
Please say gravy. Please just say gravy because this is
Tungsten inert. I don't know.
tungsten inert gas.
Oh, I knew that. For fuck's sake, I knew that.
Stick welding. What's the proper name for stick welding?
Fantastic.
No, it's MMA, but what does it stand for?
What does MMA stand for?
Yeah, and it's not mixed martial arts.
I thought I had that one. Metal.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Mixed Metal Association.
No, but I'll give you the metal is in the right place.
So metal is the second one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what would be M that's engineering terms like. Multi.
No. Do you give up?
It's not multi.
No,
that would make
no, it's
sense.
not multi.
Multi-metal.
No, because it's not necessarily you could be sticking two bits of metal of the same consistency together. When you do two that are not the same type, that's called dissimilar. Yeah.
Okay, I give up.
So it's manual metal arc.
Oh, how would I ever get that?
What's really interesting is our American friends have different terms. So TIG for them is something like GTAW, GTAW, and GMOR and stuff like that. So it's, at least we didn't go down sort of an exotic route for you. But what I wanted to do for you is give you some other bits and pieces. So what about voltage? What do you think that is?
Oh, that's to do with electric, isn't it?
Yeah.
And plugs.
Okay.
And amps.
Amps.
Voltage is like how much electricity goes through. No? Am I close?
No. Right. So.
Give me like a cold.
No, you're getting none of that. I just wanted you to experience what it's like to be thrown under the bus straight away with a subject.
Yeah, but you're giving me hard ones.
Are they hard, or is it something you'd expect any engineer to know?
Yeah, but I'm not an engineer.
I know, and I'm not a curly hair specialist.
Yeah, but you're a person.
That's absolutely.
You're a person that's had hair in their life.
Yeah, had being the operative word. Yeah, had. I'm now baldy locks and the free hairs. So, it's neither in nor there. Look, all right. I'm not going to do what you did to me. We've had a couple of questions that are funny, that are rudimentary questions in my world. They're very, very basic things. So it's interesting, isn't it, when the shoe's on the other foot, as it were.
Oh yeah, because I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so we're gonna move away from that now, and we're gonna look at slightly different topics. So what we're going to touch on is what's the positives of being married to a multi-skilled engineer? What would you say?
You can fix anything.
Yeah?
Yeah, I know that if I break something, you can fix it.
So have you got any fun examples of stuff that you've asked me to fix in the past?
I think
memories...
the thing you hated the most was when you had to take the complete front end off my Peugeot. There was no front end left on it. It was all in the street, and I actually did wonder if it was ever going to. I didn't know how you would put that back together because there was nothing of the bonnet it was on the pavement.
Well,
and you put it back together, and to this day, I don't know how you did that.
It's I don't have anything nice to say about Peugeots. So
you hated that car.
Yeah,
you hated it.
Yeah, it was awful. It's. Some countries are good at some things and some countries are good at others. And French and the cars. Okay. No. They're awful vehicles. But yeah, so obviously my career over the years has changed. Although it's been consistent in what it is, where I'm employed has changed. And now we're sat in my workshop. From your point of view, what do you enjoy about BTC as a company? What do you enjoy about us? What would you say to somebody who doesn't know us that may come here? How would you sell it? And
for me, it's that it's a family business. And not just for us, but, the other day, obviously, Joe had Emily here. And, I've been here before, and obviously other people's kids are here. And everybody knows that they can come here, and if they need to bring their wife for whatever reason, they need to bring their kids, they've got no childcare, but they don't want to miss work, they know that they're not going to rock up here with their kid and you're going to be like, what?
Yeah.
And, our kids come in, they know everybody, Dave to them is like an uncle.
Yeah.
But also that everyone's involved. Obviously, you've got James that, is working with you ad hoc at the minute.
That's our son, if you're interested, our eldest son. He's looking to do an apprenticeship with us starting this year, subject to his exam results.
But yeah, and, even the two little ones, they come in and they do their little bit. And,
terrorise us.
Yeah. So, I help you out with the social media, but it's a family thing. It's not just, you go off to work for 12 hours and you come home and we know nothing about what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the expression family business is it can be a bit of a cliche, right? So, because it's almost a catch-all term, isn't it? You can say, we're a family business, we're family owned. And that's nice. I like family businesses. I'm a big fan of it. But they can be as corporate and soulless as sort of other companies. Not that I'm sort of bagging on anyone in particular, but I think if you say it, you have to mean it, and I think that's family's bigger than us as well, like you've alluded to. With the guys that work in it, their families are an extension of our family, and that's very crucial for me. That there isn't an obstacle together that we can't overcome. Life is unfortunately a series of tragedies mixed with high events and stuff that you can't legislate for. And seems I've picked on the French about their cars. What I would say is, they have quite a good expression for it. Force majeure, an act of God. You can't predict life, which makes it interesting. And obviously you're involved with the brand branding of the business and stuff like that. Did you want to touch on any of that? Maybe our community involvements or...
I don't really do much. James does most of it.
So there's another. So behind the camera for the benefit of the podcast, and so we have James. He's got 9-3 Media, which is a fantastic company if you're looking for media support. But to be fair to James is doing the coalface stuff. You're doing the brand management. So there's no reason for you to be behind the camera, is there?
No, I kind of just put my ideas across and
Yeah.
yay or nay things.
Yeah.
Whereas James is the mastermind behind it.
No, that's fair. But you are the key decision maker in that regard. Hence why we're both sat here on the first podcast talking about stuff that makes, a camera on me makes me very uncomfortable, but here we are. We're doing it because it's...
Because me and James told you to.
I've basically been bullied. So if you're out there, they're basically treating me like Harry Potter. After this, I'm getting put back in under the stairs. So help.
We're doing...
Yeah, so from your perspective and, what you're aware of that we do, because obviously community is an extension of family and that's important to us, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've done a lot in the community. Like with the girls' football team and... Cali Labs for the children's classes.
Yeah, so it was, I think when we started with the football team, were they under 11s? So it was the Corby Town Pumas. Were they under 11 or under 12?
I think they were I think they were under 12s. They're now under 13s, aren't they?
Yeah, they're now into the under 13s. So, we've provided the kits for them and, we're there for moral support. And, I think a good example of this is one day we watched the girls play in a match, didn't we? And it was absolutely belting it down with rain. And, we got them tents and stuff for after, all sorts of things just to facilitate their football. And whilst they've been quite insistent that we brand the kits because we've paid for it, that was never our goal. It was always
it was just about helping them out.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Because the important thing is that we're keeping these kids off the street and they're doing something productive. It just goes to show you, these girls are full of fire, aren't they? And given the opportunity, they can express it. And what a wonderful gesture, And then this is breaking news, right? So I've privacy again failed to mention that we provided. There was a charity cycle race locally to provide £1,350 for a good cause. So a load of guys from a factory were going to cycle from here to Belgium, and then I think they cycled back as well. I think they did like a round robin. They went all the way down to Calais and all the way up to Belgium. And then back again. So they were looking to raise £1,350, and we said to them, don't worry about that. We've got you back. This is a good cause. So here's £1,350. Get yourself on. Everything after that is gravy.
See, this is your Enneagram 5. I knew nothing about this. I give up.
Well, you're forever telling me off for being too nice, aren't you? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's this. I think you worry, don't you, about. You think I'm doing it for the wrong reasons, or not the wrong reasons.
No. I worry because, and I've always said about you that you would give, and you would do it for me as well. You will give someone
Obviously.
the last fiver in your wallet.
Yeah.
You could have nothing but £5 and you will give it to somebody to help them out. And you would give it to me. I know you would. But I worry because of that some people that know that about you may take advantage of that.
I'm also not an idiot, and some people think I'm a jerk.
I know you're not an idiot, but you're sometimes not too giving, because I don't think you ever be too giving, but in some ways too giving.
I don't think so. I think the difference is that, whereas you'll mull over a decision, it might take you a long time. I'm quite happy to weigh up the pros, cons, and then based on that make a decision whether it's yes or no. So for me, the response, or for you, maybe the response feels a bit more rushed or too quick, maybe. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I also think, oh, how's that decision going to affect, like, 4 months' time?
Yeah.
Whereas you don't. You're just
No, I do think about these things. I do look at it.
Really?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
You know, I am very considered, but for me, it's simple. It's either happening or it's not. So we make the decision sooner rather than later. Because obviously, I'm a busy guy, right? So it's about getting, get that problem solved and then get on to the next problem. So, where can we help? That's it. And obviously, like the bike ride, sometimes that's lost in communication.
No, not lost in communication. There was no communication.
I'll be honest with you, it slipped my mind to tell you. The good deed was done. Okay. But
well done to those bike riders.
Yeah. So I think as well, like, you can. It's not about feeling good about yourself. It's about putting some good into the world. Like, consider that guy, Daniel. Was it Daniel when we was in Milton Keynes shopping, the homeless guy?
Oh, yeah.
He was genuinely on a bad streak, and that was, that you could see that he wasn't on drugs. He wasn't a drunk. His life had took a turn for the worse. So, and we all need a leg up sometimes. So it's always worth, if you can, you should, right? That's sort of my thing. And and it's why I struggled with the sort of social media side of it. I don't think that charity should necessarily be advertised. I understand the business doing it, but I think it takes away from, like, do something nice.
If you're doing it for validation, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, do something nice because it's nice. Don't, help someone because you care. Don't help them because it gives you a nice post on, what was that other one?
A video for views.
Yeah, and I don't know, one of them snap faces or whatever it's called. I forget. That other one you use. No, you don't use it.
I don't.
What was it?
You're on Snapchat.
I don't know. Whichever one it is. I heard one. So, it's just be kind, right? Yeah. The world's got enough bad in it. Let's be sensible and put a bit of good into it. Yeah. You're right about people who could take advantage, and we always have to be mindful of that. But I think from a community perspective, and even though we started, Cali Labs is a great one, with the classes now that are available for, young people like the football, they're getting a good level of fitness, they're getting a sense of community, and, they're not on the street. They're not. And what is it? I mean, we're a small outfit, so as you well know, it's not a big company, but if we can do it, the big guys could do it. Yeah. I think that's the message, care about your community. Yeah. No one else is going to do it, are they? No. So, but you speak to these people, again, I'm out fixing things. The joke is that I'm the workshop yo-yo. I'm in and out that door all the time, So between you and James, if it wasn't for you guys, we'd struggle. That wouldn't be... that wouldn't be the case. It wouldn't be as well oiled, and we wouldn't be developing these relationships, which are ultimately important. And sort of speaking about importance, your experience with CurlyCast, because I remember at the start when you said with CurlyCast, I will be happy if 5 people followed me. When you went from the switch of learning to doing, to sharing that knowledge, you said if 5 people follow me, I'd be really happy, and then you got 5 people and it progressed, and now you're reaching, 34,000 people is no joke, right? So consider this. There would have been speeches from kings and emperors in ancient history that would have stood there and, not reached an audience of that size, or politicians or whatever. So the reach of the power of social media, but you have a choice. Use it for
good or bad.
Yeah, and what was that thing you said about Red Train? What was it called, where they were writing about all influencers?
Reddit.
Reddit, yeah.
Red Train.
I don't know.
Oh.
Look, you get mad with me when you order food online, right?
Oh, watching you on Just Eat. Oh, God. I want to chop your fingers off with your 2-finger. Watching you on a keyboard.
Well, we're good at what we're good at, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
okay, so what would you say? What would you say the bad parts about being married to an engineer are? Because I got a feeling you're going to say tools.
Well, before you got the workshop,
Yeah.
the tools living in my house
Yeah.
was the worst thing. But to be fair, when you were just an engineer, but like working for somebody else,
Yeah.
there was nothing really bad, and it's not even really bad now. But obviously, because now you're running your own business and trying to obviously grow it, it's just the lack of time you have. That's the only bad thing.
Yeah.
And even when you're home, you're not home.
Yeah. Well,
You're at home, but you're on the phone, and then you put the phone down. And this happens daily, doesn't it? We will start having a conversation.
And the phone will ring.
The phone will ring. You're on the phone for 40 minutes. You come back. We pick up the conversation, and literally 2 minutes later, the phone will ring again, and then you're gone for another hour.
But I think
and that's a daily thing.
I think as the business grows, because there is now this thing about delegating different roles and responsibilities out to the guys, because the bulk of that was I was on my own. Now we've got a small team around us, and you know what, fantastic lads. Happy to take on some of that to give me a bit more headspace, and I don't think the phone calls will ever totally stop. Is the honest answer.
Just be nice to be able to have a conversation, but this is the longest conversation we've had in 2 years.
Oh, you burnt me. There we go.
It's true though.
There we
Try
go.
telling me it's not true.
There we go. Maybe there is a little bit of truth in that.
Because the kids aren't interrupting us.
Yeah.
So normally if phones don't interrupt us, the kids are. So
How about that weather?
yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's really sunny today.
Yeah. So all right. So we'll get back on track and we'll move back to CurlyCast, right? So what would you like? What would you like to? We're almost through this. So what would you like to say to anybody who's watching this about, the things that you've learned? Obviously not learned.
What about embracing curls or
anything?
social media?
Or
or starting social media?
dealer's choice. What would you like to say? All of it, any of it.
I'm actually going to say about because a lot of people want to share their journey online.
Yeah.
And they see influencers getting all these products and earning money from posts, and they think it's like a quick way to get free product and to get money. And
It's almost like a get-rich-quick scheme.
yeah, almost. But I'd say the biggest tip is just be authentic. Don't go into it going, oh, I'm doing this because I want free product. I'm doing this because I want money. Go into it because you want to help people. Because you want other people to embrace their curls and love their hair and embrace themselves. Don't go into it for the product and the money because you'll be miserable. Be authentic. If you're authentic, the people will come.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it just for the money and product, people will see right through it eventually. They won't see right through it straight away, but they will eventually. Just be authentic. Be yourself.
Right. Controversial subject time then before we close out. Right. Like
I'm scared.
back in the 90s, right, you had the two rappers that had a beef with each other, Biggie and Tupac, yeah? If you've got anyone that you've got beef with on the internet, like another influencer, you want to call them out.
No.
Yeah, you want to be like, I don't know, I'll slap taste out your mouth and then insert a name.
No.
No? Okay.
I'm not saying, to be fair, the curly hair community isn't really, you'd think it'd be a bitchy place.
Yeah.
You would think that because it's predominantly women. But no, I've never had beef with anybody.
Would you like beef with someone? Like,
Me and you're going to have beef in a minute, mate.
I'm just
No. There's nobody that I'm genuinely like, oh God, no, I don't like you. I like everybody. My alter ego, innit? My alter ego can't be.
If this ever gets big, I'm going to find someone. I'm going to ring them up and say, look, can me and you have internet beef? It seems to be the thing.
Who do you want internet beef with?
I have no idea. I don't know how to use the internet properly. How the hell am I going to know who I'm having beef with? I mean, let's be real. Even if I had beef with someone on the internet, I wouldn't know how to execute that beef anyway, would I? You've seen me type.
It'd take you 3 months to get the beef going.
Yeah, they'll be smack talking me and all the rest of it, and I'll miss it. Besides, I think negative comments are hilarious.
No, I hate negative comments. I always think if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
I'm all about that. Own it. You know, there's nothing worse than a magnolia person, right?
I had somebody say to me, this was when Teddy was really bad, before his tongue tie was diagnosed, when I was still trying to figure out what was going on with him. And I mentioned on stories that I was taking him to see an osteopath. And obviously I'd taken him to a medical doctor. But I hadn't broadcast that because nobody's business. Someone messaged me and was like, I cannot believe you are leaving your son in so much pain. You're relying on an osteopath. Why are you not taking him to a doctor? Rah, 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 rah.
Why didn't you start a beef with them?
I was like, first of all, none of your business.
You didn't type this, though.
No, I did. And I was like, firstly, none of your business. Secondly, you see a tiny snippet of my life. I have taken him to a medical doctor. I've taken him to a GP. I've paid for a private paediatrician. I've taken him to this person. I've taken him to, like, how many people did I take him to? And I was like, you wouldn't say this to if you saw me in the street, you wouldn't say this to my face. You wouldn't say, oh, God, you're leaving your son in pain. You're such a bad mother.
Yeah, but
you can say it because you're behind a keyboard.
Yeah, keyboard warriors.
That's don't be like that. Don't be that person.
Back in the day, if you said it in a pub, you get a pint glass in the face. Anyway, that's not really.
Don't be that person.
But, right. Okay. We'll close out on that, right? And we'll say, what's your parting message to the viewers and where can they find you?
I've already given my parting message. Be authentic. But so you'll find me on Instagram at CurlyCast, which I post used to be 5 days a week, actually used to be 7 days a week, but then Teddy came along. So normally 4 or 5 days a week. My website, www.curlycast.co.uk. And on there you will find all the information about my one-to-one video consultations, where I will teach you how to look after your curls and make a plan with you. There's also a blog on there with loads of articles as well to get you started. I am not on TikTok because I don't like TikTok.
Which one's that one?
That's where the young people hang out. I'm too old for that. Too old.
Is that the butt shaking ones? You remember that thing that was going on when people were shaking their butts on the internet? It was everywhere, wasn't it? People were shaking their butts for ages.
Are you on about twerking?
Possibly.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. It's the first of many. If you'd like to see more interesting local characters, then by all means, come and tune in on the next event.